just wanted to finish up because I was going over, of course, going over from the Melungeons to Abraham to the 13th, and I just wanted to finish up with the 14th a little bit. Because, you know, especially now, that time coming up with the census and all this and that, so we need to understand about that, and of course, the 14th Amendment, because the prophet said it's null and void. But we'll start off, let's go into the divine warning from the prophet. Start off with some of the prophet's words. Right. Start off with the prophet's words and we're going to tie it in. Oh, here, you can start here. You can start with it.
And equal, since that Constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens.
Appreciate it. So right there, he said, I'm gonna get myself together. He said that the 14th Amendment, we don't need it. So now, of course, we have to go in and understand more about the 14th Amendment. And of course, for those who don't know, the 14th Amendment was ruled unconstitutional with case 109 U.S. 3 in 1883. Now, it was first proposed in June 13, 1866, and supposedly it was ratified in July 9th, 1868. But now, like I said, it wasn't lawfully ratified, so now let's go into a little bit about what happened with that. Now, of course, I was looking up some things, as we all should be doing, because, you know, we're more sciences, so we study, so we look up things.
Islam.
So I came across something. Give me a minute, let me find it here. Found something by a judge. It's written about the unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment. This is by Judge L.H. Perez. Now, he was a judge from Louisiana. He was born in 1891, and he transcended in 1969. But of course, you know, he wrote a little something about the 14th Amendment. Now, this is South, hardcore. He was into segregation and all this. So let's go into a little bit what he put down. The perpetuated 14th Amendment to the United States, to the U.S. Constitution is and should be held to be ineffective, invalid, null, void, and unconstitutional for the following reasons. The joint resolution proposing said amendment was not submitted to or adopted by Congressional Congress as required by Article 1, Section 3. You got your Constitution with you?
Yeah.
Go to Article 1, Section 3, just so for those who don't know, I'm going to read it out so you get an understanding, help you follow along with this.
Islam.
Again, it's Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution.
The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote.
So now right there, each state is supposed to have like representatives, and each one's supposed to get a vote. You go to Article 5 real quick. So now I'm just laying the foundation, because now each state is supposed to have a representative, supposed to have a vote. Everybody didn't vote. That's what I'm getting up to. And now we're going to go into a little bit further consent shall be required. In fact, I'm not sure, so we're gonna skip that for right now. But the proposed 14th Amendment was rejected by more than 1/4 of all states in the Union, and it was never ratified by 3/4 of all the states in the Union as required by Article 5, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. You got Article 5, Section 1? That's the part I'm talking for.
The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution. When ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendments which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article.
So right there, just getting your idea right there, saying how everybody has to come together and they have to vote on it. But this wasn't done for the 14th Amendment that we see on the books now. 11 states unlawfully excluded from the Congress. You had to read that. Each state had to have a representative, but 11 states did not have a representative. And it's a lot, but I'm just going to breeze through some of this. The U.S. Constitution provides that the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, which we just read. So let me speed down a little bit. The New Jersey legislature, by resolution on March 22nd, 1868, protested as follows. The said amendment not having yet received the assessment of 3/4 of the states, which is necessary to make it valid, the natural and constitutional rights of this state withdraw its assessment is undeniable. So now right there in 1868, New Jersey was like, no, we're not with this 14th Amendment. They also went on to say some other stuff, but I'm just going to breeze through some of the states. Alabama legislature protested against it being deprived of representation in the Senate of the U.S. Congress. Texas also legislature in 1866, they protested it. The amendment of the Constitution proposed by the joint resolution as Article 14 is presented by the legislature of Texas for its action thereof under Article 5. Pretty much just going in, all these states is lining up talking about why they're not with it. Arkansas in 1866. And of course, there was also Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and they all listed their reason for why they was going against it, but it's long and lengthy, and I don't want to bore y'all with all this. Moving forward, Article 1, Section 7 of the United States Constitution provides that not only every bill, matter of fact, here, you can read this. Start right there, with Article 1.
Article 1, Section 7 of the United States Constitution provides that not only every bill have been passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate of the United States Congress, but that every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill.
And of course, the amendments, again, as we was going over, the amendments was not ratified by 3/4 of the states. Each state rejected it. Texas and, well, we don't have to read off the years again, but I read off some of the years. Texas rejected it on October 27, 1866. Georgia rejected it November 9th, 1866. Florida, 1866. Alabama, 1866. Arkansas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, 67. Virginia, Louisiana, Delaware, Maryland, Mississippi in 1868, Ohio rejected it in 68, and of course New Jersey. Now these are all states that they didn't have the representative in the Congress at the time when this bill was brought out there, supposedly ratified. So now they all going against it, talking about, we ain't had a representative, so how you gonna do this? Because we know how politicians go, things get swept under the rug and they do what politicians do. Now, but of course, around this time, they was still, even though the war was over, let me put this in perspective, even though the war was over, the 13th Amendment with 20 sections was passed. The people in the South, they thought, okay, we freed our slaves, we expect them to get this money. But now they started coming up with these bills, supposedly the 14th Amendment, they tried to put that on the books, but the states, they wasn't with it. So they didn't have representatives there, they didn't sign, pretty much they didn't sign up on this 14th Amendment. Because if you go into the 14th Amendment, I believe it's the last sentence, pretty much what it's saying is in section 4 of 14th Amendment, it's saying all debts that the country, matter of fact, I don't give it the right words, so I don't want to mess it up. But pretty much they were saying that all debts that we had before, we not paying. So that means much, if you had slaves, which was considered chattel property before the war, you're not getting paid now. You got that? 14th Amendment, section 4. Pretty much it's like the last sentence.
All such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Islam.
So pretty much after what it's saying, the money we said we was gonna pay you, we ain't doing it. And that's that. So of course, obviously the South, they ain't not trying to hear that. But also at this time, this was happening when they started trying to pass this bill in 1866. Pardon me, I lost my spot here. But also at the same time, there was also the Reconstruction Act going on. Because now they try to get these other bills going on to whatever to help reconstruct and get the country back together into the Union. Faced with the positive failure of ratification of the 14th Amendment by both houses of Congress passed over the veto of the President 3 acts known as the Reconstruction Acts between the dates of March 2nd and July 19, 1867. Now again, this is acts, the Reconstruction Acts was U.S. legislation enacted in 1867 through 68 that outlined the condition under which the southern states, pardon me, it's a little tight here, which the states would be readmitted to the Union following the Civil War, which of course we know ended in 1865. The bills was largely written by radical Republicans in the U.S. Now these radical Republicans, those especially from the North, whatever, they were supposed to come up with a plan like, okay, this is how we're gonna get you back to the Union, these are the rules that you gotta follow. But what they considered radical Republicans, they was going hard on the South. They was like, making sure that they don't rise up in power, they stay in line. Now, of course, with these radicals, they was favoring extreme changes in existing views because they were in habits, conditions, or institutions. President Andrew Johnson indicated that he would pursue even more lenient Reconstruction policies than those of Abraham Lincoln. Andrew Johnson, who took over once after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, of course, he was a sympathizer of the South. So he saw these stringent, these hard rules and all the acts that they was coming up there that was gonna pretty much put a chokehold on the South. He was like, nah, we're not gonna do that. He's trying to ease up on the South. President Johnson also had opposition from the radical Republican, a powerful anti-slavery fraction within Congress that was committed to equal rights and enfranchisement for freed slaves. These politicians favored more stringent measures, and they largely wrote the Reconstruction Acts. So these are the ones, of course, they setting it up so like, make sure you get no type of slavery, anything popping again. Because when they had it, slavery, like I said, at the time of slavery, that cotton at that time, whatever, that was the oil at that time. That was the cocaine at that time, and it was popping. And that stuff was getting sold all around the world. So of course, you know, you take away bread, anybody like this, you so-called, let's say you got a big drug kingpin down there in another country, whatever, you try to go in and try to stop his money, there's gonna be a war, which of course started in the civil wars, huh?
Islam. First I rise to my highest height, give proper praise to Father God Allah. I give honors to all prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, and the prophet these last days, the time prophet Noble Drew Ali. My name is Jeffrey Ron Giddy. I greet y'all in peace. I just want a little clarification, right? I'll be confusing myself with the terms that they use, adoption and ratified. What's the significance when they use it? And is one legal and one not legal, or is this illusion of it sounds like it's lawful, but it's just the ones that stand on being applied to this day?
First thing I suggest, especially when it comes to legal terms, get yourself a law dictionary. Things like adoption and ratified, you look it up in the law dictionary, it will help clear out some.
You got Black's Law on you?
I got it down. I got a 4th edition. The 5th edition is not like the 4th.
Just look it up in your whatever edition you got. Look up the meaning of it.
And that has.
Now, I don't know if you got time for me to do it now.
You know, because I'm still.
Oh yeah, don't do it now. But I'm just saying for you, for anybody out there, when it comes to stuff like this, it gives so much clarity when you have a black law dictionary.
Okay.
That's why even to the point now, like say a mayor, the Grand Sheik, or Sheik Mayor, when the Grand Sheik do a demonstration or something about law, whenever they say something, I was like, yo, let me look this up. And when someone get to, hopefully I got enough time, because one of the words that he brought up the last couple of weeks, I was like, well, hold up, let me look this up in the black laws, and that opened up the doors to some few other things to give me more understanding. If I got time, I'll get to it. Islam. Okay, I'm going back and forth here, all over the place.
You gotta get you gotta have that, you gotta get an etymology dictionary.
Yes.
You gotta get you a biblical dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
You got different dictionaries you have to get, so when you're dealing with certain degrees more they're talking about, there's a dictionary for each aspect.
Islam. Now, okay, we was going into the Reconstruction Acts. Now, the first bill called for the rebel states to be divided into 5 districts under military control. Now, right there, they're talking about military control or whatever. And I see how the North was trying to lock it down. It's like, all right, we're going to make sure y'all don't rise up again. So we send the military down, and pretty much they put in a kind of like martial law at that time. But of course, they wasn't going for that. The states had to write new constitutions, which had to include universal male suffrage and need approval by Congress. So right there, somebody, you have to rewrite your constitution. So pretty much you're gonna get that slavery taken out. So we're gonna nip that in the bud. But now when they said male suffrage and need approval by Congress, you got your 13th Amendment, 20 sections, go to number 3. And also they wanted them to add in access of citizens to the ballot box shall not be obstructed by the civil or military power. But wait a minute, but now if the law was being enforced, because 1865, Abraham Lincoln, he passed the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. Now here it is with the Reconstruction Act, they trying to say like, nah, this is what you gotta do. Like, you could look at it as they trying to reinforce it, but it was something that was already put in. 3rd section. 13th Amendment with 20 sections. It was originally 20 sections, broken down obviously into sections. This is the 3rd section.
The right of citizens to free and lawful speech in public assemblies shall not be denied. Access of citizens to the ballot box shall not be obstructed either by civil or military power. The military shall always be subordinate to the existing judicial authority over citizens. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended in the presence of the judicial authority.
The main part I want you to catch there, that was passed in 1865, and how it said that you can't stop them from going to the ballot box. So again, now with the Reconstruction Act, I guess that they try to reinforce that, like, yo, you got to change your constitution. You can't stop the so-called slaves, ex-slaves from going to the not mailbox, the ballot box. Mailbox too, you kids couldn't get no mail because they didn't want us to read, so I guess it's all the same. But also there was some, of course, obviously there was protests. Again, this is going over to Judge Perez, some of the things that he put out. Some states protested against the Reconstruction. No one can contend that the Reconstruction Acts were ever upheld as being valid and constitutional. They were brought into question by the courts, either avoided decision or were prevented by Congress from finally adjudicating upon their constitutionality. Had to say that one slow. Let me see, in Mississippi, matter of fact, you go over that. So right now, these Reconstruction Act, they're trying to say it was never really lawful. They sent it to the courts, like, yo, decide on it, but they always found some way to bob, weave, whatever, and they was claiming that it was never adjudicated, it was never made constitutional. And of course, some of the states that was against the Reconstruction, well, pretty much it was all the states in the South. I mean, you already know, they wanted their money. And now with this Reconstruction Act, they're saying you're gonna get their money, you had to take slavery out your constitution, each state had to rewrite their own personal constitution over, and this is what the government was enforcing. And also part of that, they also had to ratify the 14th Amendment, which of course we know was never really lawfully ratified, which granted citizenship and equal rights and civil and legal rights to blacks and former slaves. Now see how they put blacks and former slaves. You know what I'm saying? Whenever they say slaves, they always they had us conditioned thinking that, yo, it's just us. But they put it in there to legal rights to blacks and former slaves. So it means somebody else was slaves too. After completing the requirements, the states would be readmitted. So pretty much they had to enforce, they wanted to reinforce this Reconstruction Act, put in your laws or whatever, that you can't start slavery up again. And then you have to ratify this 14th Amendment. But we already read the 14th Amendment. The key thing about that they wasn't trying to hear was that last section was saying pretty much, you ain't gonna get paid. Now, I don't know anybody in here, if somebody owes you millions, let's just thousands of dollars, here, sign this paper, and you read that paper, oh wait a minute, this saying that you ain't gonna pay me. Go ahead, just sign it. I don't know how many of us in here that's gonna be like, all right, let me go ahead and just sign that. We're gonna have issues with that.
Islam.
But now, pardon me, because I'm all shifting, shuffling over here. Now, of course, part of this Reconstruction, there was also like a timeline I just want to run through real quick. And timeline part of the Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877. 1865, the 13th Amendment was approved in January, ratified in December, abolished slavery in the United States. Congress established the Freedmen Bureau in March to provide assistance to the emancipated slaves. Now that's a key part there, you know what I'm saying? That's one thing I didn't ever hear in school, about this Freedmen Bureau.
Islam.
So of course, you know, being curious, you know, we gotta look things up so I can get more understanding. You go look up something about the Freedmen Bureau. And I suggest everyone who hasn't, you know, you look this up. But just real quick, it was approved March 3rd, 1865. U.S. Statutes at Law, Treaties and Proclamation of the United States of America, Volume 13, Boston, 1866. It was abolished in 1872. But of course, there's several sections to it, but I just want to go over a couple, one real quick. You can just stop the thermometer. Oh, it's ready? No, this is now this is a part of the section of the Freedmen Bureau. It's something like, we heard about it, but now once I looked this up, I was like, oh, that's where that came from. But go ahead.
Whether refugee or freedman, as aforesaid, there shall be assigned not more than 40 acres of such land.
Islam. So now right there, part of this Freedmen Bureau, one of the things is like, yo, if you was a freedman or you was an ex-slave or whatever, you're supposed to get 40 acres of land. I know, I always heard about this 40 acres and the mule and all that, but I never questioned, like, where did they actually get this from? And then of course, when we come to the Born Science Temple, you know, we learned about the Constitution and all that, but I was like, yeah, but what about this 40 acres and the mule? And of course, you know, we got to study, so of course I come across that. Oh, that's where they get this 40 acres from. But of course, that was abolished in 1872. So, Hey, I guess that's what happens to our 40 acres. Even though we're supposed to be much larger than that, though. We're supposed to be colonizing the territory anywhere along 3630. Pardon me, I forgot my points. Oh, okay. You can read the next part from here. Now this is the next section that follows it right after.
And the person to whom it was so assigned shall be protected in the use and enjoyment of the land for the term of 3 years at an annual rent not exceeding 6 per centum upon the value of such land, as it was appraised by the state authorities in the year 1860, for the purpose of taxation, and in case no such appraisal can be found, then the rental shall be based upon the estimated value of the land in said year.
So pretty much I was saying that you're going to get this land, we're going to let you work it for like 3 years, but obviously you're going to get some type of payment for it, better than at the time working as a slave. But backing up to this timeline real quick of Reconstruction, because we're still in 1865, President Johnson presents the plans for Reconstruction, which we just went over some of that. Mississippi enacts the Black Code, which we went over that in prior demonstrations. If you don't know, go look up the Black Codes. Joint Committee of 15 on the Reconstruction, that was the radical Republicans who came together to try to put this Reconstruction plan together that would stifle the South so they wouldn't rise up financially as they was before. The Ku Klux Klan, created in Tennessee in 1865. So you see now it's starting to gear up. It's like, yo, wait a minute, we lost the war. They acting funny. So KKK. 1866, Civil Rights Act passed despite Johnson's earlier veto. Now, you should know about that. Sheik Amir, he did a demonstration on that, bringing about the first Civil Rights Act of 1866. You go on our YouTube channel, Brooklyn Moore's Backtrack, you can find that. He did a great job on breaking that down. I don't want to take time up on that. Go on our YouTube channel and look that up. The 14th Amendment, this is still 1866. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution approved by Congress. And of course in Memphis, a race riot starts out, because they're like, yo, wait a minute. That's the Freedmen Bureau responsibilities and powers expanded by Congress. Legislation is vetoed by Johnson, but Congress overrides it. So now, this money, the Freedmen Bureau is supposed to be set up so we can get land. Obviously, you get some money. But you see, Johnson's like, no. I'm vetoing. I'm not with that. But Congress overrode him. As I said before, he was a Southern sympathizer. Fast forward. There's a lot in this. I'm just trying to pick out some of the highlights. 1867. First Reconstruction Act passed over Johnson's veto. Again, you see, he's trying to knock this stuff out, but they like, no, we override it. Second Reconstruction Act passed over Johnson's veto. Third one, over Johnson's. A Republican convention in New Orleans. Party platform includes equality for African Americans. This is 1866. Now, this is a big thing. This is a big part. This is a big part because now prior when I was doing the research on Abraham Lincoln, before he became president, when he was working on the boats, he went down to New Orleans. And the way he described the New Orleans, there was slave trade, or I don't know exactly what you call it. You could buy slaves, like 3-4 shops on every corner. It was just rampant down there. So now here it is just a few years later, for them to have a Republican convention in New Orleans party, which includes equality for African Americans, that's huge at that time. Okay, skipping 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified. Matter of fact, I only got a few minutes. I don't want to go over this no more next week. Let's get to the highlight, appreciate it. So now the 14th Amendment, which a lot of people, they thought, yo, that's what makes us a citizen. We already went over time and time again how it's null and void, it's not even supposed to be there. We're supposed to be on the 13th Amendment with 20 sections, which came out in 1865. I want you to go to, you got the Divine Warning from the Prophet. I think I gave you my copy. Okay, let me see. So, yeah, you read that. Now this is a divine warning from the prophet. This is in part.
So, I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America.
Now this is this great sin. It's in our one-on-ones. Calling yourself black, colored, Negro, nowadays African American, Indian. These are all names that's put on us by slaveholders in 1774 and lasted until 1865. And of course now, as you know, according to law, it's a sin. That's how we went with the Dred Scott case, whatever. He stepped in the court of law claiming that he's a Negro and all this and that. That's a sin. You get treated like an animal. You're less than an animal. Islam, go ahead.
Because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically.
Now right there, socially, let's be real. We know this, we know as Negroes, African Americans and all that. That's why we get no respect in the world. Because this mentality that was put on us by Europeans, they got us acting the way they want. So people outside this country, they look at us like, yo, we animals. They're not worthy of it. That's why the prophet tried to say, yo, this is a great sin or whatever. He tried to get us together socially, because we know black according to science means death. That's on a social, political level. The prophet always talks about us about getting our economics up. And he tried to wake us up out of this mental grave that we was in. Go ahead.
In their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world, they will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth.
Appreciate it. I just want to finish up this because before I said it was something Amir that had Sheik had dropped, and of course it made me think, look it up. Because let me say if I said it right. You said tacit. Now, of course, I sat there listening, like, I don't know what that means. But I'm going to look it up. So now, of course, I was looking up in the dictionary. Of course, tacit was implied or indicated as an act of silence, but not actually expressed. So now, of course, I understand what the prophet brought us and everything, and now I understand a little bit about law. When you fill out paperwork, if you don't fill out exactly what you are, they're going to mark down who you are because it's already implied that you're a Negro, you're African American. That's why we go through things like changing your identification, get that Bay or L attached to it, get that fez, a turban onto it. So even though you may not have to say it, by them looking at it, they're going to know. But still, that's just a little step. You still have to change how you were classified. Yeah, he said tacit agreement. Yeah, he said tacit agreement. But right now I'm just focused on this real quick. And then of course, that was just a regular dictionary. Look it up in the Black Law Dictionary, just like I was suggesting you before. Like, let me look it up in the Black Law Dictionary.
Islam, you was using also them two terms too. Depending on how law, express or applied.
Yeah.
Implied, they use that a lot. Legal jargon.
That's right, they sure do.
Islam, it's a great example because you a sheep, but you're not above not looking up what another sheep is talking about.
Oh yeah, of course not.
This is how you gotta understand that when another sheep present information or a brother, there's no big eyes here. You still gotta look up what the brother talking about.
That's right.
Same page with that brother. That's why I always recommend them more to watch our videos, do the research on our videos, so we could all be on the same page.
Islam.
That was a very good example. I need to know what the sheep
Islam.
demonstrated.
Cause that's how they understand, man. I mean, it's even like that in life, man. Even though you grew up, whatever, you got like my pops, see the neighbor, they doing something good with their lawn. Hey, what's going on? What you do, whatever. You got to build with each other, see what's going on, and make the neighborhood, of course, in this particular incident, yourself better. But anyway, going back, I only got a few minutes. Looking up in the Black Law Dictionary, tacit is existing, inferred, or understood without being openly expressed or stated, implied by silence, and which also means understood. And also it also says manifested by the reframing, from the contradiction or objection. So pretty much if your paperwork says African American, Negro, black, color, and everything, if you don't say nothing, you don't do nothing about it, if you don't contradict it, or you don't object it, that's what you're gonna be labeled as. That's one of the first things we come in here talking about, yo, you gotta get this stuff corrected. We gotta learn the law, and we gotta change our status. Not only you gotta clean up yourself or whatever, but you also gotta clean up yourself, the way people look at you. Because the more that light shine in you, the more people gonna look at you. Because if it's dark out and you see a little light coming somewhere, people their curiosity, hey, what's going on down there? But again, of course, also I looked up, now I'm probably just reaching here, but of course, I looked up it said tacit law, it's all on the same page. A law which derives its authority from the common consent of the people without any legislative enactment. Now, help me out, because I know you know this better than me. From the common consent of the people without it. So now pretty much if they say, yeah, you call it, you're a Negro, and you pretty much don't object to it, it's pretty much saying like you consent to it. That's what I'm getting from that.
Sure.
And also I looked up real quick, and I'm just gonna end off on this. Tacit acceptance. In the civil law, a tacit acceptance on an inheritance takes place when some act is done by the heir which necessarily supposes his intention to accept, and which he would have no right to do but in his capacity as an heir. We always say that the prophet lets us, we're heir to this land. But as a black, colored Negro, how can you be considered an heir?
Sure.
But like I said, that's what I was saying about before. Sometimes just by looking up that one word, see how it just opens up to more understanding of what it is. And then even though when you look it up, I didn't get time, but I wanted to come here and build with him before I got up here and said something crazy that was out of line. Be like, yo, Sheik, yo. But see, that's what you gotta do. Look this stuff up, build with each other. All it's gonna do is make you stronger. But with that, I'm gonna end this, and I'll say peace.
Peace.